Hey guys, it's Janath from the Supercoach Swordplay podcast here to do a little team update video post round 10. Some of you guys may have seen the initial team reveal, which I put out on Supercoach with DR's channel in pre-season. Thanks to Supercoach with DR, has given me the opportunity to provide a team update here. So without further ado, let's get into it. A good round in round 10, 26-62, good enough for 766th for the round. And if you guys did watch the Supercoach Swordplay podcast, you would have really seen that I'd fallen down to 8K after a Callum Mills debacle last week. But up to 3.7K this week. So really happy with that. So let me show you guys the team as a whole. So in the full picture, I think I've got 4 rookies on the field in terms of Will Ashcroft, Bailey Humphries, Seamus Mitchell, and Asava. I'm really happy with their output. I mean, the lowest score for this week that I had was Will Day with 74. So in terms of that, really pleased with that output. Zach Merritt on debut going against Spills' Murphy's Law. Predicament did captain him on debut, and he rewarded all his captainers with 162 points. And that's brilliant. Great to see some of the starting picks, which weren't doing so well in terms of Rory Laird, 145 in the weekend. That's brilliant. I guess in terms of overall how we're looking, some of the big trade-ins that I've made in over the last couple of weeks, Jack Sinclair, 160 against the Giants. That was a really, really big score and was really pleased with that. On the other hand, I've made some mistakes, Will Day being one of the big ones. So since I brought Will Day in, he hasn't turned up. And so that's a bit of a concern. Surprise packets for the season, Harry Sheasel. Who would have thought he would be a keeper? I was happy to just have him ride the field until his buys, but he looks to be a keeper at this stage. And Will Ashcroft at the Gabba, with so many games yet to come at the Gabba, is he a potential keeper? He can only build into this season, but that's more to see there. I guess where my upgrades do lie is I've got a full defense at the moment, holding Harry Sheasel in at D6. We're looking at sort of a Bailey Humphrey, Will Ashcroft types being moved on, Errol Goulden being moved back into the forward line. So really there's 3 midfield spots available. I did bring in Jordan De Goey this week, along with Zach Merritt and Bailey Humphrey. Some of you that may have watched that Supercoach Swordplay podcast at the end of round 9 would have seen that I was contemplating between Merritt, Walsh, and Drury in, as opposed to this trade in which I did with Zach Merritt in, Jordan De Goey in, Bailey Humphrey in. I just really like Jordan De Goey's role, and the fact that he's got North and West Coast in his next 2 games with that elevated ceiling. The 6 frees against really accounted for that 67 against Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval. But I'm happy with the 92. He didn't play overly great. I was at the game, Carlton versus Collingwood. He didn't play great and he still got to 92, which is a promising enough sign in itself. So really 3 midfield upgrades, which is what the plan is over the bye time, with one of them being Lachie Neale post his round 12 bye, or even considering the fact that Lachie Neale may be bottomed out now. If we have a look, Lachie Neale's at 561K and he has a break even for 85. So this may be the week to bring him in, but it all depends on how good that round 12 buy is for everyone. Other surprise packets for this season, Tim Taranto, when picking him, I didn't think that he had the scope to average 115, and really that really blows. That's really impressive from my perspective. In terms of rookies that surprised this week, that was the big thing. Josh Weddle, Will Ashcroft, Bailey Humphrey, all turning up is just amazing for cash gen. If you guys have got on any of these guys or holding these guys, that's just going to really put you in a good spot going forward, especially over these buys. And we have to pay special mention to Seamus Mitchell, he's just playing really well as an on-field option week in and week out. So in terms of the week overall and how I like to think about, for those that may be struggling at the moment in terms of rank, just take 1 week at a time. Last week, I got a 2060, and this week I got a 2670. So there's a 610-point difference there based on a couple of trades and making a better captaincy call going with your gut. These are all principles that DR and I talked about at the start of the season. Should really put you guys in a good stead moving forward. And especially with buy plan, you do not understand how important it is to properly plan for your buys so that in the grand scheme of things, you'll make up points that others will fail to make when they may have donuts on their field if they haven't planned properly. And so one bad score here or there from a player can go really, just don't worry about it. Treat each week on a week by week basis with all the data that you have, and so that you don't make any impulse moves, for instance. Even still, there's some places here where I'm like, oh, there's not much cash gen, especially this midfield bench. That's a real point of concern here. And just having Lockie Cowan and Josh Weddle in defense as defense-only options makes it really difficult to put in a loop there. So might have to move on Cowan this week just out of necessity, really. Samson Ryan appears to be on the chopping block now with Nankervis back and a 71 break-even. Even though he's going up against Port Adelaide, he's playing as key forward now majorly as opposed to a ruck. But on the other hand, Asava Radigali is playing a really good key defensive role, and he's just been ultra consistent since this round 4 game against Hawthorn. He's got what is that, 7 out of 7 games? Or yes, out of 7 games, he's gone above 75 or above on 6 of them. So just got to keep backing Asava in. I guess one other thing which I wanted to show all of you guys is in terms of how this season's gone and what the forecast is in terms of goals. So as we can see here, I started the year at 84K. And this is just a complete sort of foreign concept, the fact that you can start so low. But we can see that continually chipping away across this year, there's been consistent progress, got up until 4.4K, and then the Callum Mills debacle happened. He scored 4 points. And in the attempt to chase those points back, a captain Jordan Dawson last week, and well, the week before, sorry, and he only got like a 89 odds. So that really killed the rank for round 9. But then it's just all it takes is one good week. And one good week can catapult you back up. Those same positions. So basically from round 8 to round 10, I've had a net gain of 700 ranks. And so that's the sort of holistic mindset that you guys should be having in terms of, okay, how one week I may not have had a good week, but how can I improve? How can this team improve going into next week and the weeks ahead as well? And then just a trade history. I just want to be really open with you guys and show the sort of moves that are made from that original team reveal team, which I put out on DR's channel along with him. So after round 1, I wasn't quite impressed with Fergus Green. And I know he did make some cash and did come to burn people, but at 33 against Essendon, I'm like, oh, I'm jumping ship. So did jump ship. And then he had this stretch here, and I was like, oh, this isn't great. So 73, 76, 77. And then Mitch Lewis came back in and completely ruined his scoring. And as we can see, he hasn't come back into the team yet. But the man I traded him in for, Mateus Filippo, didn't do all that great either. So that was a wasted trade. And in hindsight, that's one trade that I would like to have back. And even if Green wasn't going to perform lights out, it's just someone that I would have wanted to bring back in. It's someone that I would have wanted to keep and just have on the bench, for instance. Nazaya Wangani-Malera got traded out for Finn Callaghan. Another mistake, really got sucked into Finn Callaghan's round 1 score of 101 in those hot conditions that even Rory Laird struggled in. I thought that was a really good thing on Finn Callaghan's part, but clearly it wasn't, and that's a bad miss. But round 3 came, and I think that these were some of the better trades which have sort of structured up the team so far. So trade out Tanner Brun, Liam Jones, and Campbell Chesser for Cade Chandler, who since then went up 220K, and I traded him out last week. Nick Dacos is just such a good player, and you want to have him on stretches, even if he gets tagged. He got tagged today by Ed Kerner, and he's just such a gun. He'll break through it. And then Ollie Hollins, brought him in, trade him out after his Marvel game against Brisbane, 290K, so made 128K, which suffices as a sort of fieldable, benchable option at the same time. Round 4. Now, this was one of the big moves which I made, was trading out Sean Darcy, even after he scored 130 odd against West Coast. Now, I'd like to say that on total points, Tim English is ahead. Again, it's one of those that right now it's a bit hard to make up a decision. Sean Darcy is one of the best tap ruckmen going around, and with Freo improving, he's just such a good option. But I guess what I was thinking is, looking ahead, Rowan Marshall and Sean Darcy share the same buys. It's a bit hard to have both of them and facilitate around that. So trade him to Tim English. And since bringing in Tim English, he's just been super consistent, great VCC options. So he's gone 145, 139, 131, and then a couple of lowish 80, high 80s, low 90s. And then also he's just been so consistent. Just a player you like to watch, because ruckman normally don't get chip marks from kick-ins, but he does. In this same round, the option was Harry Rouston or Will Phillips, and brought in Will Phillips. He made some good cash for us. Unfortunately, got subbed out against Gold Coast, which really stunted his cash gen. And I moved him on pretty quickly after that. Round 5 was when Sam Doherty got injured, swapped him to Tom Stewart, and Tom Stewart's been a really good pickup since then. Opted for Samson Ryan over Jacob Van Rooyen, and I think that Samson Ryan's beaten him in terms of cash gen, making close to over 200k since bringing him in. When you see a cheap number one possible ruck option, you just have to pounce on them, because they're as good as gold dust. And also brought in Judd McVeigh in this round, just because I needed a bit of defensive flexibility with the low scores of Lockie Cowan. Round 6, so this was the round after gather round, trade out Ruben Jinby after your subbed out, and also Oscar Baker, who I just think is the epitome of consistency. He has gone between 43 and 69 in 9 of his 10 games, and he's just consistently hitting his break even, and his break even isn't too high, but his average isn't ballooning either. So he's been a great pick, great starting pick, and just one that I look back on. Maybe there was a couple more K that I could have squeezed out there, but did bring in Stephen Caniglio in this round. He did really well in the week. Bring him in 136, and he's just been the cogs that you can rely on a close to a ton every week. Zach Butters may have been the play here in terms of his ceiling, but can't really complain. In round 7, trade out Connor McKenna before his dip came, and that was pretty good. So trade him out actually after this 57. So there was the 70 at the Gabba, but since then his scoring's petered out a little bit, even without the presence of Daniel Rich. So pretty happy with that trade. Trade out Will Phillips there for Will Day and Seamus Mitchell. So I think Day's been a failed trade so far, but if he's just going to be a season-long keep at D6, I think that will be they'll be okay. Round 8. So this was jumping off Will Setterfield after his low score against Collingwood. And Geelong, did want to drop him before that Geelong game, but just didn't have other options to trade out. And then, he was such a good pick. So I started with Will Setterfield. That was part of the restructuring with Elliot Yeo having that preseason injury and just structuring around the team to get fewer rookies off the field, basically. So that's why I started Nazaya, Wangani, Malera, and Setterfield. So trade out Setterfield, a maxed out McVeigh, a maxed out Filippo, got in Sam Simpson, who may or may not be a dead rookie come this time next week, Jack Sinclair and Alex Chincotta. So we may have just brought in 2 dead rookies in that trade, but you couldn't have predicted it at the time, especially with how Chincotta was playing. And he may even come back into the team if they too opt against going with Jordan Boyd, who personally I rate him a lot, and I think Carlton internally rate him a lot as well. Round 9 trades. Now this was almost a complete disaster. Trade out Ollie Hollins, who was a good trade out. Trade out Josh Goda, who was a dead rookie at the time, and brought in Callum Mills for a measly 4 points. So that was almost a dagger in the season. Thankfully, but also thoughts are with Callum Mills, but was able to trade him out because he had I was able to trade him out because he had a long enough injury where I wasn't forced to hold him. And at the same time, got in Josh Weddle, who looks like an absolute superb rookie who has plenty of cash to make going forward. We can see with a couple of 63 scores, he just goes up, another 85k from here. And so that's just brilliant for Josh Weddle there. And then we got to our round 10 trades. So Mills came straight in, went straight out. That's happened a couple of times for teams across the competition now, especially with Tuke Mill as well. Traded out Jacob Hopper. Again, unfortunate with the calf injury, and traded out Cade Chandler, who did score 82 on the weekend and looked 86 on the weekend, looked really impressive. So he may still have some cash to make, and brought in Jordan DeGoey, Zach Merritt, and Bailey Humphrey. Humphreys just looks like a good player with the tenacity to want to win the ball, and he's going to make plenty more cash as well moving forward. So I guess that sort of wraps up what I wanted to go through in this week, in this video, sorry. And I just wanted to give a couple of appreciations. Firstly, to DR for giving me the opportunity to make this video, but also to be a part of the Supercoach Swordplay podcast. I know that it's been quite a ride, and we're consistently growing on a week-to-week basis. So much appreciated there, mate. And to you, Spills and Shorty, thanks so much for being great co-hosts and guests on the channel. We're looking forward to seeing how far the Supercoach Swordplay podcast can reach. And most of all the support that you guys give to us, all the viewers here for the Supercoach Swordplay podcast, we really appreciate it. And you're the reason why we continue to make videos like this. And the platform that DR has is all courtesy of you guys. So without further ado, I'll leave it there. And looking forward to seeing you guys all to watch the Supercoach Swordplay podcast this week. See ya.